Bible, so open to Revelation in the very first chapter. Because the book of Revelation is the only book in the Bible, the only book of all 66 books that gives us its own natural outline. And we find that in Revelation chapter 1 and verse 19. Let me read it to you and again highlight it in the scriptures. Write down what you have seen, both the things that are now happening and the things that will happen. Revelation chapter 1, verse 19 has three natural divisions. The things that you have seen, the things that are now happening, and the things that will happen. That is the natural outline of the book of Revelation contained right there in sacred scripture. And so Revelation chapter 1 is John, the author of the book of Revelation, written in AD 95. Revelation chapter 1 is John writing the things which he had seen. Revelation chapter 2 and 3, John is writing about the things that are now happening. And he writes them specifically in 7 literal letters to 7 literal churches. Those 7 letters are not only literal letters to literal churches, they are also prophetic letters in the chronology of the history of the church. And then in Revelation chapters 4 through the very end of the book, which is Revelation chapter 22, the things that will happen. Now, I've covered that before, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. I'll come back to it, I'm sure, in future teachings, because it's one of those keys to understanding the book of Revelation. When you open up the book of Revelation and you're studying, trying to learn Bible prophecy, right there in Revelation chapter 1 and verse 19 is the definitive outline of the very vision that John wrote down. The things which you have seen, chapter 1. The things which are now happening, chapters 2 and 3, and the things that are yet to come, Revelation chapter 4 through Revelation chapters 22. Number 2, in the book of Revelation, we read about 3 series of end time judgments. Number 2, in the book of Revelation, we read about a series of end time judgments, and there are 3 of them. And in those judgments, God is executing his wrath during the tribulation period. So if you're taking notes, number 2, in the book of Revelation, in the things that are yet to come, and again, that begins where? Revelation chapter 4 through Revelation chapters 19, Revelation chapter 4, Revelation chapter 5, we have a prelude to the tribulation period. And then in chapters 6 through 19, we have the tribulation. If you're a new student of the Bible and a new student of the book of Revelation, the tribulation period begins in Revelation chapter 6 and goes all the way through Revelation chapter 19. The tribulation ends with the second coming of Christ. We go into Revelation chapter 20. We have the millennium. We go into Revelation chapter 21. We have the new heaven and the new earth. And then in Revelation chapter 22, the final chapter, we have the visionary salutation, the conclusion of the book of Revelation. Now we read about the very first series of end time judgments, which are the 7 seals. Now I want you to walk with me. What are we doing right now? We're lining up the chronology of the text. Where are we headed? We're headed to the last trumpet in Revelation chapter 11. But before we walk into a proper understanding of Revelation chapter 11, as with any proper interpretation of Scripture, you have to understand what is being said within the full context of the total narrative. What is the total narrative? It would be the entire book of Revelation. To understand the book of Revelation, you just can't pick a passage here, pick a passage there, as so many do, and then wonder why they have points of confusion in interpreting end time chronology. we do all proper biblical interpretation, it must answer to the total narrative. That's why I took the time to just briefly give you a thumbnail as to the total narrative of the book of Revelation. So when we get into 3 series of judgments, this is very important. If you haven't already written it down, write it down. These 3 series of judgments transpire during the tribulation period. When does the tribulation period occur in the book of Revelation? As already mentioned, we have the prelude to it in Revelation 4 and 5, but the actual tribulation chapters are Revelation chapter 6 through Revelation chapter 19. So by the time you get to Revelation chapter 11, which is where we're headed in just a moment, you are already about midway through the tribulation, which is why there are a group of people, not the overwhelming majority, it would be a minority, and I don't say that condescendingly, but just factually, a minority of scholars hold to a mid-tribulation view. But to lay a foundation upon which they can build the view of the pre-tribulation, they have to make the last trumpet in 1 Corinthians 15 the same as the last trumpet in Revelation 11. And so we read about the first series of end times judgments, the 7 seals, and it is a scroll, a single scroll with 7 seals. Each of those 7 seals represents a judgment. If you'd like more teaching on that, I have an entire YouTube video and podcast teachings available on what is the 7 sealed scroll. So if you want more information on that, there's an entire study on that. I'll not go down that road today for sake of time. But the 7 seals and that series of judgments begin in Revelation chapter 6, verses 1 through 17, and go all the way through Revelation chapter 8, verses 1 through 5. Then we read about the second series of judgments which follow the seals, and that is the 7 trumpets. We begin reading about the judgment, the second series of judgments, the 7 trumpets, in Revelation chapter 8, verses 6 through 9, also verse 21, and we read all the way through Revelation chapter 11, verses 15 through 19. And then the third series of judgments is the 7 bowls. And the 7 bowl judgments are found in Revelation chapter 16, verses 1 through 21. Now I know that if you're a new student of the Bible, some of this is a little overwhelming. And I realize that though I've studied this for 40 years, I am oftentimes guilty of maybe information overload. I'm not trying to overwhelm you with prophetic information. I'm not trying to bury you. If you knew my heart is to take you by the hand and to systematically and carefully walk you through what Bible prophecy is in proper text and context. But this is one of the beauties of producing this content, is you have the ability to listen to it over and over and over again until you understand it. You also have the ability to hit pause and to take careful notes. What I really want you to have at this point in your understanding is this fundamental. I want you to understand that the tribulation period in the Bible begins in Revelation chapter 6, goes all the way through Revelation chapter 19. And during the tribulation period, Revelation chapter 6 through Revelation chapter 19, I want you to understand that you're going to come upon, in your reading, 3 series of judgments. Now, one of the things that you need to understand about the 3 series of these end-time judgments is they become progressively worse and increasingly more catastrophic as we are marching through the 7 years of tribulation, as God is outpouring his wrath. In other words, it is very consequential. It is vitally important for you to understand that the three series of judgments are all interconnected. As a matter of fact, write that little gold nugget down. The three series of judgments in the tribulation are all interconnected. One more time. The three series of judgments in the tribulation period are all interconnected. The seventh seal from the seal judgments, the seventh seal introduces the seven trumpets. And the seventh trumpet introduces the seven bowls. So again, three series of judgments where God is executing wrath during the tribulation period, and they are all interconnected. And then thirdly, in context, the seventh trumpet seems to occur in the middle of the tribulation. Now, we know from other studies the exact day of the middle of the tribulation because the Bible is clear. Even Daniel in the Old Testament spoke of the division of the tribulation period, that last set of seven that Daniel referred to, by the signing of a peace treaty. That's the beginning of the tribulation. Daniel chapter 9, verse 27. We know the exact day that the tribulation period will begin. It will begin with the signing of a peace treaty in Jerusalem, Israel, by a one world leader. And when he signs that 7-year peace treaty with Israel, that is the very day that the tribulation period begins. It is exactly 7 years in length by a Hebrew calendar of 360 days. Not 7 365 calendar days, but 7 360 Hebrew calendar days. Exactly to the day. And so halfway through the tribulation, the Antichrist breaks and betrays this peace treaty with Israel, and the last 3.5 years of the tribulation becomes the wrath of God on a level so severe, so apocalyptic, that Jesus said if his Father had not shortened the days to the last 3.5 years, Jesus said none would survive. It is going to be the wrath of God at the highest level in all of human history that the world has ever seen and will ever see. So in context, the seventh trumpet in Revelation chapter 11 occurs somewhere in the middle of the tribulation period. Now that's where the debate begins. And again, it's not a majority of scholarship. It's a minority. Those who hold to the mid-tribulation view are a small minority of scholarship. I am not going to defame them. I'm not going to be overly critical of them. But I am going to be honest enough with you to state that I believe it is poor scholarship. When I hear people trying to twist the chronology of final Bible prophecy to accommodate a mid-tribulation view, this is just my opinion, and I state it as such, I see that as a fairly shallow well of proper scholarship, and I'll tell you that right up front. But there are some people who believe that the church is going to be raptured in the midpoint of the tribulation. And those who espouse this view, as I've already made clear, are called mid-tribulationists. Mid-tribulationists, or the mid-trib view. And those who espouse this view need to, for the sake of the foundation of their view, they need to tell you and teach you that the trumpet in Revelation chapter 11, the seventh trumpet, which is the last of the seven trumpets, so the last trumpet to them, the seventh trumpet, is the same trumpet mentioned in 1 Corinthians 15 and also the same trumpet that would be found in 1 Thessalonians chapter 4. So here we are. I've been teaching you and then bringing you back to center. Here we are back at center with the question, is the last trumpet in Revelation chapter 11 the same trumpet found in 1 Corinthians 15 and also in 1 Thessalonians chapter 4? The last trumpet in 1 Corinthians 15:52 and the last trumpet, or the seventh trumpet, in Revelation chapter 11 and 15 are not the same. So I'm going to give you the straight answer up front, and then I'm going to back it up with the scripture. But again, if you're taking notes, let me be very clear. The last trumpet in Revelation chapter 11, which is the seventh trumpet in the series of the trumpet judgments, the last trumpet in Revelation chapter 11 is not the same trumpet that we read about in 1 Corinthians 15 and 52. And the mid-tribulation view is, and again, I want to clothe this with humility, but the mid-tribulation view is easily dismantled by a simple side-by-side comparison. And so in the conclusion of our teaching today, that's how I'm going to conclude. I've already made the statement that proper context and proper interpretation of text, 1 Thessalonians 4, 1 Corinthians 15, the classic rapture passages, are not the same trumpet as the seventh trumpet in Revelation chapter 11. But it's important because if you ever hear someone teaching or a pastor preaching or someone on social media and they're trying to connect the seventh trumpet in Revelation chapter 11 to the trumpet call of God in 1 Corinthians 15 or 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, if you follow me and listen to our teaching, I hope that a red light will begin to flash in your spirit and you'll understand that is a perversion of the text and it is not what we see by an actual comparison.